Okay, let's take a look at this example. Now, example 3 says, what if my coefficients are not opposites? Well, what that means is if I look and I see that my x's line up with my x's, my y's line up with my y's, and my constants line up with my constants, but if you look, none of your variables have additive inverses for their coefficients, meaning none of your variables have coefficients that cancel each other out right away. So if they're not opposites, how can I make them opposites? Well, you can choose which letter to make opposites. We'll talk more about this in the small group. But if I look, I have 3x and negative x. Well, I can make my second equation the additive inverse of my first by multiplying this whole equation by 3. What that's going to do is give me negative 3x plus 6y equals negative 12. So now what I have for my two equations are 3x plus 4y equals negative 8 and negative 3x plus 6y equals negative 12. Now I can add those straight down and do my columns and say 3x minus 3x cancels. 4 plus 6 gives me 10y equals negative 20. Divide both sides by 10 and y equals negative 2. So I just solved for one of my variables, and now just like before, I'm going to substitute this back in to my other equation or to one of my equations and solve for x. So if I substitute this back into my first equation, I get 3x plus 4 times negative 2 equals negative 8. Well, 3x minus 8 equals negative 8. Add 8 to both sides. 3x equals 0. This is okay, guys. Don't freak out. 3x can equal 0. And if I divide by 3, x equals, well, 0 divided by anything is just 0. So my solution, my point of intersection for these two lines would be at 0, negative 2. What that looks like on a graph, because some of you guys are getting, a little concerned about that 0, it crosses, or my lines cross right there at the y-axis at negative 2. So these two lines would cross right here. That's what this solution is telling me. Well, if I check it, because I always like to check, I'll substitute these into equation 1, which is negative x plus 2y equals negative 4. Well, negative 0 plus 2 times negative 2 equals negative 4. Does negative 4 equal negative 4? Yep. So I know that this is my solution to that system. Okay, example 4, last example for these notes. If I look, I have negative 2x plus 4y equals 16, and 3x minus 5y equals negative 7. Well, right from the start, neither of these look like they have things that will cancel, but they are in my columns. They're already in standard form. Well, I'm really close to having opposite coefficients. If I think about negative 2 and 3, if I look at my x's, well, the least common multiple between 2 and 3 is 6. So what I want to do, the least common multiple, or LCM, is 6. So I'm going to multiply my top equation by a number, so my x is equal negative 6, and my bottom equation by a number, so my x is equal 6. Well, what times negative 2 will give me negative 6? 3 times negative 2 will give me negative 6x plus 12y equals 48. So I multiplied my top equation by 3 so that my x's would have a coefficient of negative 6. Now my bottom equation, I want to multiply by a number so I get positive 6x. Well, what can I multiply positive 3x by to get positive 6x? I can multiply by 2. 2 times 3x gives me 6x. 2 times negative 5 gives me negative 10y equals negative 14. So now my x's will cancel. When I add straight down, negative 6 plus 6, x's cancel. 12 minus 10 gives me 2y equals 48. Take away 14 gives me 34. We'll divide both sides by 2, and y equals 17. So my y is equal to 17. Now let me substitute that into one of my equations to solve for x. Well, if I put it in equation 1, I get negative 2x plus 4 times 17 equals 16. So negative 2x plus 68 equals 16. Negative 2x, if I subtract 68 on both sides, sorry guys, I got kind of small, equals negative 52. And if I divide both sides by 2, or negative 2, I get that x equals 26. So right now, x equals 26, y equals 17. So my solution, my point of intersection, is the point 26, 17. I know these numbers are a little bit bigger than what we're used to, but it's okay. That's why we're doing this example. Now if I substitute these back in, I get negative 2 times 26 plus 4 times 17 equals 16. Well, negative 2 times 26 gives me negative 52 plus 4 times 17 gives me 68 equals 16. Well, 52 or negative 52 plus 68, that does give me 16, and 16 equals 16. So this is my solution, 26, 17. Don't let large numbers freak you out. We've done these before, so now it's to try some on your own. Hear the problems, get going, and we'll see you tomorrow.